The embryo in the vault. In the penthouse lounge of the Halcyon Hotel, people spoke about the Kellan family the way they spoke about rare art, with admiration, envy, and the quiet certainty that none of it belonged to them. If you mentioned Victor Kellan's investment empire, someone would praise his vision. If you mentioned Dr. Mira Kellan's awards, someone would say she had a mind like a scalpel. And if you mentioned their children, the room would brighten with a familiar script. Their oldest boy is a prodigy. Their daughter is elegance incarnate. Then the speaker would lower their voice and add, as if sharing a courteous secret, but the youngest? She doesn't look like her mother. Maybe she was brought in to complete the picture. Yes, I would say with my glass of sparkling water, smiling like a trained hostess. That would be me. My name is June Kellan, the inconvenient footnote at the bottom of a perfect family brochure. Adrian, my oldest brother, could solve calculus problems before he learned how to lose politely. Selene, my sister, could play a concerto so cleanly that professors cried in lecture halls and then quietly asked her for career advice. I, on the other hand, once recited a famous poem at a charity gala and managed to replace the moon with a street lamp in the most important line, which is impressive if you enjoy watching socialites laugh with their eyes. To be fair, my parents never treated me as less loved. They simply treated me as less urgent. Adrian carried the weight of succession. Selene carried the shine of reputation. I carried the free space, the family's spare room, filled with donations and polite smiles. I wasn't tortured. I was sidelined, and that is its own kind of loneliness because it comes without bruises that people can point to. The rumors followed me anyway. In every school corridor, there was always a girl who leaned too close and asked, "Do you call them Mom and Dad, or do you call them Mr. and Mrs.?" In every university club, there was always a boy who joked, "You're basically adopted, right? That's why you're normal." Even at home, the whispers seeped in through the staff's careful courtesy, through the way the driver tightened his grip when he drove me and relaxed when he drove Adrian. When you are told a lie often enough, it becomes an itch under your skin, and you begin to scratch at yourself in public. So the week after my 21st birthday, I did what no one in my class would have dared to do to their own family. I ordered DNA tests. Not one, 3. I chose 3 different laboratories because paranoia runs in my blood even if my face doesn't. I paid in cash under a fake name. I wore a hat like I was a celebrity hiding from paparazzi, which would have been funny if I hadn't felt like I was hiding from my own fear. When the first result arrived, I read it 3 times, as if the numbers would rearrange themselves out of spite. Probability of maternity, 99.98%. Probability of paternity, 99.97%. I stared until my throat went tight. I was a Kellan, undeniably, genetically, scientifically. The lie that had haunted me collapsed with a soft, satisfying crack, like ice breaking on a lake you didn't realize had been freezing you. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt embarrassed, as if I had accused my mother of something without saying it aloud. I folded the paper carefully and shoved it into a folder like a criminal hiding evidence. The other 2 results came back the same. The truth did not change. I told myself I would keep it secret, store it away as private comfort, and stop flinching when strangers joked about adoption. I told myself I would not weaponize science against the people who had raised me. Then Adrian walked into the breakfast room one Saturday morning with a cut on his knuckle and a blank expression that looked practiced. He sat down across from me and said, "June, do you ever feel like you're living inside a story that someone else edited?" I blinked. "Is this your way of asking for therapy?" I asked. He did not smile. "I'm serious," he said. Something in his tone made my stomach tighten. Adrian rarely asked questions unless he had already calculated the answers. "What happened?" I asked. He slid his phone across the table. On the screen was an email from a lab I did not recognize. The subject line read, "Confidential paternity analysis." I looked up, startled. "Did you—" I began. "I took a test," Adrian said flatly. "Not because of the rumors about you. Because I found something in Father's safe." The room seemed to narrow. The clink of cutlery from the staff faded into the distance. "His safe?" I repeated. Adrian nodded once. "A sealed envelope," he said, "dated 24 years ago. It had my name on it. It had Mother's handwriting on the back, as if she couldn't bring herself to throw it away." My skin went cold. "What was inside?" I asked. Adrian's jaw tightened. "A hospital discharge summary," he said, "and a receipt for a fertility clinic." and a note that said, "If this ever breaks open, choose the children." He said the last words without looking at me, the way someone repeats a line that has been burning their tongue. I swallowed. "What did the test say?" I asked, already afraid of the answer. Adrian's voice went quiet. "It said father is not my father," he said. For a second, my mind refused to accept it. It felt like trying to picture a staircase suddenly missing a step. Adrian was the oldest. Adrian was the pillar. Adrian was the reason the Kellan name sounded like a solid wall. How could he not be a Kellan? "Maybe the lab made a mistake," I said automatically. "I used 2 labs," Adrian replied. "I'm not a child." The words sat between us like ash. Adrian's hand trembled as he reached for his coffee. "All my life," he said. "I thought the way father looked at me was pressure, expectation. I thought he was hard on me because he believed I was capable. Now I'm wondering if he was hard on me because he was afraid." I stared at my brother, the brother I had secretly resented for being perfect, and felt my resentment dissolve into something worse. Pity, not the insulting kind, the kind that comes with grief, because it means your brother has been lonely in a way you never saw. "Have you told Celine?" I asked. Adrian shook his head. "She's in Zurich," he said. "She's coming home next week." He leaned forward, voice low. "June," he said. "If I'm not theirs, who am I?" I wanted to give him comfort. I wanted to say blood didn't matter, but I had grown up under a surname that opened doors like magic. I knew, better than most, that identity mattered because people used it as currency. "You're Adrian," I said, because it was all I could offer that felt true. "You're still the person who stayed up with me the night I failed that scholarship interview and pretended you were just reviewing strategies when you were actually keeping me from crying." Adrian's eyes flickered, surprised, as if he had forgotten he had ever been gentle. "That doesn't answer the question," he said. "No," I admitted, "but it's a place to stand while we search for the rest." We tried to keep functioning like normal humans. Adrian went to meetings with father, wearing his best suit like armor. I went to class and pretended I was stressed about grades instead of genetics. Mother remained in her research wing, where she lived among microscopes and awards and a kind of calm that only existed because she controlled the variables. At night, I pulled up old articles about fertility scandals, embryo mix-ups, the quiet cases that appeared in medical journals and then disappeared under settlements. I told myself I was being curious, not suspicious, even as my search terms grew sharper. Cryostorage breach, embryo substitution, clinic misconduct cover-up. The name I kept seeing, like a shadow behind a curtain, was Larkspur Reproductive Center. It was the clinic on Adrian's receipt. Larkspur was famous in the way expensive things are famous, not because people talked about it openly, but because they nodded when someone else mentioned it, as if acknowledging a password. Celebrities flew in for privacy. Billionaires bought memberships like they were country club fees. The clinic's founder, Dr. Rowan Pierce, had been praised in glossy magazines for making miracles practical. I looked up Dr. Rowan Pierce and found he had vanished from public life 5 years ago, after a brief scandal about data theft. The articles were vague, carefully worded, scrubbed of names. The sort of scandal that doesn't destroy careers, it only rearranges them. The week Celine flew home, the house changed. It always did when she returned. The staff moved faster. The living room smelled like lilies instead of furniture polish. Even father stood a little straighter, as if her presence reminded him of something precious that had been polished for display. Celine entered the mansion like a spotlight in human form. She wore a long coat in pale gray, her hair pinned neatly, her expression serene enough to convince strangers she had never cried in an airplane bathroom. When she saw me, she kissed my cheek and said, "You look tired." "I'm studying." I lied. Celine's gaze sharpened. "You're lying," she said pleasantly. I smiled weakly. "Welcome home," I said. She turned to Adrian and paused. For the first time, I saw my sister's calm crack. Just a hairline fracture. She studied Adrian's face, the way she studied financial statements, searching for a hidden loss. "What happened?" she asked. Adrian tried to smile and failed. "Nothing," he said. Celine did not accept nothing. She never had. She was the kind of person who collected truth the way other people collected jewelry. That night, Celine found me in the library, where I was pretending to read a textbook while actually scrolling through archived news reports. She closed the door behind her and said, "Start talking." I stared at her and felt my throat tighten. Celine could be kind, but her kindness came with precision. She did not comfort ignorance. She dissected it. Adrian isn't father's, I said. Celine did not blink. She sat down opposite me, as if I had told her the weather. Only her fingers tightened briefly around the edge of the table, the smallest leak of emotion. I suspected, she said. My eyes widened. You suspected? I repeated. Celine nodded. I didn't suspect because of you, she said quickly, as if anticipating my defensiveness. I suspected because of Mother. What do you mean? I asked. Celine leaned forward. Mother is a geneticist, she said. She notices patterns, and she has watched Adrian like someone watching an experiment they didn't design. I swallowed hard. That's horrible, I whispered. Celine's face softened for a moment. It is, she agreed, but it might be true. She tapped my phone screen, where the Larkspur Clinic name glowed. You found the clinic, she said. Yes, I admitted. Celine exhaled. Then I need to show you something, she said, and pulled out her own phone. She opened a folder of photos. The first image was a blurred snapshot of a young woman stepping out of a subway station. The woman had dark hair and a jawline that looked eerily familiar. Her eyes, large, slightly hooded, were my mother's eyes in a stranger's face. My stomach dropped. Who is that? I asked. Celine's voice went quiet. Her name is Arya, she said. And according to the private investigator I hired in Zurich, she shares Mother's DNA. My throat went dry. That's impossible, I said. Celine's gaze held mine. Not if there was an embryo, she said. Not if something was taken. The room felt suddenly too small. Are you saying Mother had another child? I asked. Celine nodded slowly. An embryo, she repeated. A stored embryo, created at Larkspur, before Adrian was born. Father and Mother went there because Mother couldn't conceive naturally at first. They created embryos. They tried. Adrian arrived. Then, the records suggest one embryo remained. I stared at the photo again. Arya's face was not mine, not Celine's, and yet it carried our mother in it like a watermark. Why would anyone take an embryo? I asked. Celine's mouth tightened. Because embryos are leverage, she said. Because a child born of our parents' DNA is a claim, an inheritance, a threat. My heart pounded. Did you tell Mother? I asked. Celine shook her head. Not yet, she said. I wanted proof. I wanted to make sure we weren't chasing a mirage. She scrolled to another photo. This one showed Arya sitting at a small cafe table, laughing at something someone said. Her smile was open, unguarded, nothing like the practiced smiles of our world. She wore a plain jacket and cheap earrings. She looked normal. She doesn't know, Celine said softly. Or if she knows something, she doesn't know the whole shape of it. I felt dizzy. So, there's another Kellan, I whispered. Celine corrected me. There's another child of our parents, she said. Whether she is a Kellan depends on what we decide to do with the truth. We agreed, in the way conspirators agree, without saying the word conspiracy. We would bring Arya to the mansion before Father learned about her. It was not difficult to find her. Celine's investigator had tracked her to a neighborhood far from our glass towers, a place where laundry hung on balconies and the air smelled like fried dough and bus exhaust. She worked at an audio equipment shop and took night classes in medical technology. She lived in a small apartment with a woman who called herself her aunt. Celine's car stopped outside the shop on a rainy afternoon. I stepped out beside her, feeling absurd in my expensive coat among puddles and peeling paint. Arya looked up from the shop counter and frowned, confused by our presence. Her hair was tied back, her hands smudged with grease from fixing a speaker. Can I help you? She asked. Celine smiled, bright and precise. We're looking for Arya Yates, she said. I'm Arya, the woman replied cautiously. Celine took a breath. My name is Celine Kellan, she said. And this is my sister, June. Arya blinked. The name meant nothing to her at first, then everything. Her gaze flicked to my face, to Celine's, to our posture, our coats, our car. Her expression tightened. If you're here to buy something, she said. We close in an hour. We're not here to buy speakers, Celine said gently. We're here because we believe you are connected to our family. Arya's eyes narrowed. I don't have family, she said. Not the kind you mean. Celine held up a folder. I have results, she said. DNA results. I won't force you to read them, but I need you to know. You shared genetic markers with our mother, Dr. Mira Kellan. Arya's face drained of color. For a second, she looked like she might laugh. Then she looked like she might run. Who paid you to do this? She whispered. No one, I said quickly. We're not trying to trap you. We're trying to understand. Arya's gaze snapped to me, sharp. People like you don't understand people like me, she said. I flinched because she was right, and because I hated that she was right. Celine's voice remained calm. Arya, she said. We don't know what happened at the clinic. We don't know why you were born into a different life. But we believe the truth matters, and we believe you deserve it. Arya swallowed hard. My aunt would kill you, she said. Celine's eyes sharpened. Your aunt? She asked. Arya hesitated, then nodded toward the back room. She's in the office, Arya whispered. She doesn't like strangers. A door opened behind the counter. A woman stepped out, older. Her hair dyed too dark, her posture rigid, her eyes flicked to Selene, to me, and then lingered on the folder in Celine's hand as if it were a bomb. What do you want? The woman snapped. Selene kept smiling, but her voice cooled. We want to speak with Arya, she said, privately. The woman's gaze hardened. She's busy, she said. Leave. Arya's shoulders lifted defensively. Aunt Nola, she murmured. Celine's gaze locked on the woman. Nola, she repeated. That name appears in the Larkspur employment logs. The woman's face twitched, the smallest betrayal. My heart dropped. You worked at Larkspur, I said quietly. Nola's lips tightened. I cleaned floors, she said. I didn't do what you think. Celine's voice turned steel. Then why did you take her? She asked, pointing at Arya. Arya froze. Take me? She echoed, voice small. Nola's eyes flashed toward Arya, then back to us, panic flickering under anger. You don't know anything, she said. Selene stepped closer, holding the folder out like a mirror. We know she is our mother's, she said. We know an embryo went missing. We know our brother's DNA doesn't match. We know someone benefited. Nola's jaw clenched. For a second, she looked old in a way that poverty makes people old. Sharp, exhausted, cornered. You want the story? Nola spat. Fine. You want it because you think it will make you clean. Arya's eyes filled. Aunt Nola, she whispered. What is she talking about? Nola's gaze softened for one heartbeat when she looked at Arya. You were mine, she said, voice cracking. In every way that mattered. Answer her, Selene demanded. Nola's hands trembled. Larkspur was a vault, she said. Rich people stored hope there like it was gold. And Dr. Pierce. He didn't just store it. He traded it. Celine's face went still. Nola continued, voice rough. One night, there was a breach, she said. Not a hacker, a man in a suit, with security that bowed. He wanted a specific embryo. He had money. He had threats. He said if the embryo wasn't delivered, my sister's deportation papers would be activated. My stomach twisted. Celine's eyes narrowed. Who was the man? She asked. Nola laughed without humor. You think I saw his face? She said. He wore power like a mask. But I saw his watch. I saw his ring. I saw the crest. She lifted her hand, tracing an invisible symbol in the air, a stylized K. My heart stopped. Selene went pale. Father, she whispered. Nola nodded once, tears shining with rage. Your father stole what he wanted, she said. And he didn't care who he crushed to do it. Arya shook her head violently. No, she whispered. That's not. Nola grabbed Arya's wrist. Listen to me, she said, voice desperate. I didn't choose to take you for greed. I took you because I thought it would protect you. I thought if I kept you out of their world, you'd be safe. Arya's breath came fast. Safe from what? She demanded. Celine's voice softened to a hush. Safe from being a claim, she said. Safe from being a tool. I watched Arya's face as realization hit her like a wave. Her eyes darted between Nola and Selene, searching for stability and finding none. I need air, Arya whispered, and stumbled toward the shop door. I moved instinctively to follow, but Selene caught my arm. Let her breathe, she murmured. If we push, she'll bolt. Arya stepped into the rain. She leaned against the wall outside, staring at the street as if it had changed shape. I walked out slowly and stood beside her without touching her. "I'm sorry," I said. Arya laughed, shaky. "Don't," she said. "You're not the one who lied to me for 22 years. "I'm not," I admitted, "but I'm the one who has to live with the consequences too." Arya's eyes flicked toward me. "You?" she scoffed. "You're a Kellan. Your consequences are inconvenience." I felt the sting, but I didn't flinch away from it. "I grew up feeling like a mistake," I said softly. "Not in your way, not with your hunger, but the rumor that I didn't belong, it ate holes in me. I had to test my blood in secret like a thief just to stop hating my own face." Arya stared at me, something shifting. "You did that?" she asked. "Yes," I said, "and the test said I belonged, which should have been relief. Then it became horror, because it cracked open everything else." Arya swallowed. "So, your brother isn't," she said, piecing it together. "But you are, and your sister is, and I—" Her voice broke. "I'm the leftover." "No," I said quickly. "You're not leftover. You're the part that was stolen." Arya's jaw tightened. "And you think I should go with you," she said. "Into the mansion, into the glass cage, into the place that created this mess." Selene stepped outside then, rain dotting her coat. "Arya," she said, voice careful, "we won't force you, but there is danger now. If Father learns you exist before we control the narrative, he will treat you like an asset. He will buy you, bury you, or break you." Arya looked at Selene with bitter disbelief. "You talk like you're planning a merger," she said. Selene's expression flickered with shame. "It's how I survive," she admitted, "but I'm trying to do better." Arya stared at us for a long moment. Then she said, "If I come, it's not because I want your life. It's because I want answers." "That's fair," Selene said. Nola appeared in the doorway, face tight. "Don't go," she said to Arya, voice shaking. "They'll swallow you." Arya looked back at Nola, pain in her eyes. "You already swallowed my truth," she said. "I need it back." Nola flinched like she'd been struck. Then she whispered, "I loved you," and her voice sounded like a torn cloth. Arya's face softened for a second, then hardened again into resolve. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "Let's go," she said. We brought Arya into the Kellan mansion at dusk. The entry hall was a cathedral of marble and quiet. The staff stared, then recovered, because servants in rich houses learn to hide shock the way chefs hide salt. Arya walked beside us with stiff posture, eyes scanning every chandelier, every painting, as if looking for the hidden price tag. Adrian met us at the top of the staircase. He froze when he saw Arya, because the resemblance to Mother was undeniable now that it stood under our family's lights. His mouth opened, then closed. He looked like a man watching his own reflection rearrange. Arya looked up at him, and her gaze sharpened with instinctive assessment. "You're Adrian," she said. Adrian swallowed. "And you're Arya," he replied. A strange silence stretched between them, full of unspoken calculations. Genetic proximity, emotional distance, inheritance, gravity. Two people who had never met, but had been tied together by stolen cells before either could speak. "Mother?" Selene called softly toward the corridor leading to the research wing. Footsteps approached, brisk and controlled. Dr. Mira Kellan entered the hall wearing a lab coat over a dress, as if she had walked directly out of a microscope into a family crisis. Her face was composed, but her eyes, those sharp, hooded eyes, widened when they landed on Arya. For a second, Mother looked like a scientist confronted with an impossible result. Then she looked like a woman confronted with a lost child. "Who are you?" Mother asked, voice thin. Arya's hands clenched. "My name is Arya Yates," she said. "But I think it used to be something else." Mother's breath caught. She took one step forward, then stopped as if afraid proximity would shatter the moment. Selene lifted the folder. "We tested," she said. "She shares your DNA." Mother stared at the folder as if it were a weapon. Her mouth tightened, her chin lifting. "This is a mistake," she said automatically, the way scientists speak when they want the world to behave. Adrian's voice cut in, quiet and trembling. "Mother," he said, "I tested too." Mother's gaze snapped to him. Something in her eyes flickered guilt, maybe, or terror. She did not ask his result. It was as if she already knew. The silence broke when Father's voice echoed from the hallway. "What is this?" Victor Kellan asked. He stepped into the hall with his jacket draped over his arm, as if he had just returned from a meeting where he had purchased something expensive and forgotten it. His gaze swept the scene. Celine, calm and weaponized. Me, pale and tense. Adrian, rigid. Mother, too still. Arya, defiant. Father's eyes landed on Arya and narrowed slightly, not with recognition, but with appraisal, like a collector evaluating a newly discovered artifact. "Who invited her?" he asked. Selene's voice was steady. "I did," she said. "She is connected to us." Father's gaze slid to Mother. "Mira," he said, not kindly. "Explain." Mother's fingers trembled, then steadied. "I can't," she said. Father's jaw tightened. "Then I will," he said, and his calm carried the threat of a closing door. He turned to Arya. "If you are here to blackmail us," he said, "you've chosen the wrong night." Arya laughed once, short and harsh. "Do you always assume everyone is selling something?" she asked. Father's eyes sharpened. "In my world," he said, "everyone is, including you." Celine stepped forward, voice like ice. "Father," she said, "don't do this." Father glanced at Celine as if she were an employee who had forgotten her role. "You brought a stranger into my house," he said, "and you want to lecture me about control?" Adrian's voice came out rough. "She's not a stranger," he said. "Not to Mother." Father's gaze shifted to Adrian, and something cold passed between them. "Stay out of this," Father said. "I've been in it my whole life," Adrian replied, and his voice cracked on the last word. Mother's composure finally slipped. "Victor," she whispered, "please." Father looked at Mother, and his expression softened slightly, as if in response to their long history. "Mira," he said, "we agreed the past stays buried." Mother's eyes filled. "I agreed because I thought it was over," she said. I didn't know someone would bring it back into our hall like a ghost." Arya's face hardened. "So you knew," she said, voice sharp. "You knew I existed." Mother flinched. "I suspected," she whispered. "I felt something wrong. But Larkspur told us it was a lab error, a failed embryo, a miscount. They gave us reports. They gave us apologies. They gave us contracts." Father's voice turned deadly calm. "Enough," he said. Celine lifted her chin. "No," she said. "Not enough. Not anymore." Father's gaze snapped to Celine. "You think you're being brave," he said. "You're being reckless." Celine smiled faintly, without warmth. "I learned from you," she said. The fight escalated quickly, not with shouting, but with precision. Father demanded Arya leave. Celine refused. Mother stood shaking, caught between grief and discipline. Adrian looked like he might implode. I stood in the middle, feeling the mansion's air turn heavy with the weight of unspoken secrets. Then Arya did something none of us expected. She walked past Father toward the wall of family portraits. The portraits were arranged like a timeline of entitlement. Victor and Mira at their wedding, Celine at 16 with her first trophy, Adrian at 18 with his scholarship letter framed, me at 19, looking like I was trying to disappear. Arya stared at the empty space between Adrian's portrait and mine. "There," she said softly. "That's where I should have been." Her voice was not pleading. It was simply fact, and it made the room ache. Father's face tightened. "You don't understand what you're asking for," he said. Arya turned and looked at him. "I'm not asking," she said. "I'm looking." The next days were a war conducted through manners. Father's lawyers arrived. Mother's colleagues called with concern. Celine stopped attending charity events and started making phone calls that she refused to explain. Adrian locked himself in the gym and hit the punching bag until his knuckles bled. Arya wandered the mansion like a visitor in a museum of a life that might have been hers, touching nothing, trusting no one. And I, the youngest, became the bridge simply because everyone else was too proud to hold hands. One evening, I found Arya in the greenhouse, where Mother cultivated rare medicinal orchids. The air smelled like damp earth and expensive perfume. Arya stood among the plants, staring at a blossom that was pale and delicate, like it didn't belong in a world this harsh. "They keep flowers in cages too," she said without turning. I stepped closer. "Mother says orchids teach patience," I replied. Arya finally looked at me. "Your mother," she corrected. The words hit me, and I understood the instinct behind them. If she claimed Mother as hers, she risked being hurt by Mother's inevitable failure. If she refused the claim, she stayed safe behind distance. "She's your mother too," I said quietly. Arya's mouth tightened. "I don't know what she is," she said. "A scientist, a liar, a stranger who shares my cheekbones. She's also a woman who didn't sleep for a month when Celine had pneumonia at 5, I said, "and a woman who still checks my temperature when I cough, even though I'm old enough to vote." Arya's eyes flickered. "Then why did she let me go?" she whispered. I swallowed, throat tight. "Maybe she didn't," I said. "Maybe she lost you, and then she chose to survive by pretending you were never there." Arya's breath shook. "Survival," she muttered. "That word always means someone else paid." She walked past me, stopping near a pot of orchids. "Do you know what Nola told me after you left the shop?" she asked. "What?" I asked. Arya's voice went flat. "She told me I was the best thing she ever stole," she said. My chest tightened. "That's complicated," I said. Arya's laugh was humorless. "Everything is complicated when rich people are involved," she said. Over the next week, Celine pushed forward with the ruthless grace of someone who had been trained to win. She arranged a private meeting with Dr. Rowan Pierce's former assistant. She offered money, protection, and a promise of revenge. The assistant, a nervous man in his 40s with bitten nails, came to the mansion at midnight and sat in our library with trembling hands. "It wasn't just one embryo," he whispered. "It was a program. They called it reallocation. They moved genetic material between clients based on influence. If someone couldn't produce a viable embryo, they would source it." Mother's face went gray. "Source it from where?" she demanded. The assistant's eyes darted. "From other clients," he said. "From donors. From whoever they could." Celine's voice turned lethal. "And the Kellans were clients," she said, "which means our genetic material was on the shelf." The assistant nodded shakily. "Dr. Pierce kept a private vault," he said. "A cryo-storage room not registered with the health authority. He used it to negotiate." Father's eyes narrowed. "Where is this vault?" he asked. And the room froze because Father sounded less like a father and more like a man identifying a target. The assistant swallowed. "The clinic shut down officially," he said, "but the vault was moved. Dr. Pierce sold it to a company called Oxbow Biomedical." Celine's fingers tightened around her pen. "Oxbow is a subsidiary of Kellan Capital," she said slowly. The room fell into stunned silence. I looked at Father. "Did you buy it?" I asked, my voice small and furious. Father's gaze did not flinch. "I bought assets," he said calmly. "I bought liabilities. I bought control." Celine's voice trembled with anger. "You bought the vault," she said. "You bought the place where you stole our sister's origin." Father's jaw tightened at once. "I bought it to bury it," he said. "To protect this family from scandal." Arya's laugh cut through the room like glass breaking. "Protect," she repeated. "You mean protect your brand." Father looked at Arya, and his eyes held no apology. "You don't understand what scandal does," he said. Arya stepped forward, eyes blazing. "I understand what lies do," she said. "They make people doubt their own faces." In the tense days after that confrontation, Father tried to fold Arya into family protocol with lawyers and schedules. While Celine and Mother gathered records and quiet testimonies, Adrian wrestled with identity in the only way he knew: workouts and silence, until he finally admitted he was afraid of becoming a stranger in his own life. Arya stayed, watchful, refusing gifts, insisting on answers. I stayed too, doing what I'd always been trained to do: listen, notice, and slip through rooms without drawing attention. On the day the authorities arrived to audit the vault, Father hosted a charity luncheon in the mansion as if the world were normal. He invited senators, philanthropists, and a famous talk show host. Cameras flashed. The dining hall glittered. Father smiled his corporate smile and spoke about ethics and innovation. It made me want to scream. Arya stood at the edge of the room in a plain black dress Celine had insisted on, her posture stiff. She looked like someone forced to attend their own trial. I stepped beside her. "You don't have to stay," I whispered. Arya's gaze stayed on Father across the room. "I'm staying," she murmured. "I want to watch him lie with his mouth, and I want to remember it." The talk show host laughed at Father's jokes. A senator praised Mother's research. Celine smiled politely and hid her anger behind perfect posture. Adrian stood near the window, looking like he wanted to shatter it. Then the audit team arrived in the foyer, and the mansion's atmosphere shifted. People sensed scandal the way sharks sense blood. Father greeted the auditors with warmth so polished it looked fake. "Welcome," he said. "We're grateful for oversight." Celine's eyes narrowed. "He's enjoying this," she whispered to me. "He's performing innocence." I whispered back. The auditors moved to the study, where the vault access codes were stored. Mother accompanied them with clipped professionalism. Celine followed like a shadow. Adrian and I hovered near the hallway, unwilling to leave but also unwilling to interfere. Arya stood still, hands clenched. A man in a gray suit stepped out of the audit group and looked around the foyer with calm familiarity. My stomach dropped, because I recognized him from my late-night research. Dr. Rowan Pierce, older now, hair thinner, but the same sharp eyes of a man who believed rules were negotiable. He should have been vanished. He should have been hiding. Yet here he was, walking into our home like he had been invited. Celine's face went pale. "He's here," she whispered. Arya's eyes widened. "That's him?" she murmured. Father approached Pierce with a small smile. "Dr. Pierce," Father said, "thank you for cooperating." My blood ran cold. "He cooperates with Father," I whispered, horrified. Celine's voice was tight. "He's bargaining," she said. "He wants immunity." Pierce glanced around and his gaze landed on Arya. For a fraction of a second, his eyes flickered with recognition, then calculation. Arya's shoulders lifted defensively. "He knows," she whispered. Pierce spoke quietly to an auditor, then stepped aside, pulling out his phone. He was too calm. He looked like a man preparing a trap. Celine moved fast. She crossed the foyer with a smile and intercepted Pierce near a statue. "Dr. Pierce," she said sweetly. "I'm Celine Kellan." "We haven't had the pleasure." Pierce smiled. "Celine," he said, "I remember you as a child." Celine's smile remained. "Then you know I don't enjoy games," she said. Pierce's eyes sharpened. "We're not playing," he said softly. "We're cleaning." Celine's voice dropped. "Where is the documentation?" she asked. "Where are the records of reallocation?" Pierce's smile was thin. "Destroyed," he said. "For everyone's safety." Celine's gaze held his. "You mean for your safety," she corrected. Pierce's eyes flicked toward Father across the foyer. "Mr. Kellan and I have an understanding," he said. Celine leaned closer, voice dangerously calm. "If you have an understanding with my father," she said, "then you have a problem with me." Pierce's smile faltered. "You're threatening me," he said. Celine's smile was bright. "I'm informing you," she replied. Before Pierce could respond, Mother appeared in the foyer with the chief auditor, a woman with stern eyes and a tablet in her hand. "We've accessed the logs," the auditor announced, "and we have discrepancies." The room's chatter faltered, guests turned, cameras lifted. Father's smile remained, but his eyes hardened. The auditor continued. "There are unregistered cryotanks, unregistered transfers, and evidence of unauthorized genetic material movement." A murmur rose, like a wave of gossip waking up. Pierce's face tightened. Father's jaw clenched. Celine's voice cut in, clear and controlled. "You should also know," she said, "that my family has evidence connecting these transfers to coercion and blackmail." The talk show host's eyes widened. Hungry, the senator's expression tightened, calculating political distance. Father stepped forward, voice smooth. "This is a misunderstanding," he said. "We will cooperate fully." Arya suddenly walked into the center of the foyer. Every head turned. She lifted her chin and said, voice shaking but loud enough to cut through the air, "My name is Arya. I was born because of your vault. I was raised under a lie because rich people traded my beginning like a commodity. I'm not here to ruin your party. I'm here to ruin your silence." The room went still. Father's eyes flashed. "Arya," he warned. Arya looked at him, fury bright. "Don't," she said, warning in her tone. "Don't say my name like you own it." Pierce's eyes narrowed. "This is inappropriate," he snapped, stepping forward. Celine moved between Pierce and Arya like a blade. "Touch her," Celine said softly, "and I will bury you." The chief auditor raised a hand. "Everyone calm down," she ordered. "We will proceed with the investigation." But the party was already dead. The guests' faces held the thrill of scandal. The cameras captured Father's controlled smile. Someone whispered, and the whisper spread. Embryo theft, vault, Kellan, scandal. Father's eyes met Celine's, and I saw something ugly pass between them. A realization that the narrative was no longer his to manage. That night, the mansion became a battlefield. Father's lawyers worked in the study, phones ringing. Celine's team drafted statements. Mother sat with the auditors, her voice clipped, her hands trembling when no one looked. Adrian paced like a caged animal. Arya sat on the stairs, staring at her hands. I sat beside her. "You did it," I said softly. Arya's laugh was shaky. "I think I burned your family," she murmured. "My family set itself on fire years ago," I replied. "You just turned on the lights so everyone could see." Arya's eyes glistened. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Me too," I said. "But fear is honest. It means you're awake." Arya looked at me for a long moment, then whispered, "Do you hate me?" The question startled me. "Why would I?" I asked. Arya's voice was small. "Because I'm a threat," she said. "Because I exist and your father will treat me as a rival. Because your life might change because of me." I swallowed, then exhaled. "My life was going to change anyway," I said. "It just didn't have a name before. Now it does." Arya's lips trembled. "And what do we do now?" she asked. I took a breath. "We decide what family means without letting him write the definition," I said. In the days that followed, the scandal exploded across the city. Headlines screamed about Oxbow's vault. Former Larkspur clients came forward with stories of unexplained miscarriages, strange consent forms, babies born with the wrong eye color. Regulators launched hearings. Investors panicked. Father's stock price dipped. He looked annoyed rather than afraid, which was its own terror. Then, on a Tuesday morning, Adrian received a phone call. He listened silently, then ended the call and sat down on the kitchen floor as if his legs had forgotten how to hold him. "What happened?" I asked, kneeling beside him. Adrian's voice came out hoarse. "They found my biological parents," he whispered. My heart stuttered. "Where?" I asked. Adrian stared at his hands. "A fishing town," he said. "They're alive. They have another son. They never knew." His throat moved. "The clinic paid them," he said. "Paid them to sign a document that said their child died. They believed it." I felt tears sting my eyes. "Adrian," I whispered. He laughed, broken. "So I'm a ghost," he said. "A dead baby who grew up in a mansion." I grabbed his hand. "You're not dead," I said. "You're here." Adrian's eyes filled. "Do I go meet them?" he asked. Celine entered the kitchen then, having overheard enough. She sat down across from us, calm as always. "You decide," she said. "But don't let Father decide for you." Mother appeared in the doorway, face pale. "Adrian," she whispered, and her voice shook with love and guilt. "Whatever you choose, you are my son." Adrian looked up at Mother, and something in his eyes softened, then shattered. "If you knew," he said, voice trembling. "Why didn't you tell me?" Mother's lips trembled. "Because I was afraid," she whispered. "Afraid of losing you. Afraid of the scandal. Afraid of what Victor would do if he thought you weren't stable property." She flinched at her own word choice. "I'm sorry," she said, and the apology sounded like blood. Adrian stared at her. Then he nodded, slow and pained. "I believe you," he said. "And I hate that I believe you." That night, Father called a family meeting in the dining room. He stood at the head of the table, his posture perfect, as if discipline could fix everything. "You have embarrassed this family," he said to Celine. Celine smiled faintly. "You embarrassed us," she replied. Father's gaze snapped to Arya. "You," he said, "are a problem that can be solved." Arya's eyes flashed. "Try," she said. Father's gaze turned to Adrian. "And you," he said, "will not meet those people." Adrian's jaw tightened. "Those people," he repeated. Father's voice hardened. "If you meet them," he said, "you invite claims, lawsuits, media, weakness." Adrian's eyes burned. "You mean humanity," he said. Father slammed his hand on the table once, a rare crack of his calm. "I mean survival," he snapped. Mother spoke, voice shaking but firm. Victor, she said. Stop. Father turned to Mother, anger flashing. You chose them over me, he said. Mother's eyes filled. I chose truth over your control, she whispered. Father's gaze shifted to me. June, he said softly. You are still mine. The phrase made my skin crawl. I stood slowly. My hands shook, but my voice came out clearer than I expected. I'm not a thing, I said, and I'm not a consolation prize. I'm your daughter, but I'm also a person, and I'm done being your quiet space. Father's eyes narrowed. You think you're brave, he said. You're naive. Celine's voice cut in. June is finally honest, she said. Father's gaze hardened. Fine, he said. If you want honesty, here it is. I did what I had to do to keep this family intact. I bought the vault because Pierce threatened to expose the embryo program. I paid him to keep Arya hidden. I kept Adrian because he was useful. I kept you because you were harmless. The words landed like knives. For a second, I couldn't breathe. Then something inside me steadied, cold and clear. I realized Father's honesty was not a confession. It was an attempt to assert dominance through cruelty. Arya spoke, voice sharp with pain. Congratulations, she said. You just proved you never deserved any of us. Father's eyes flashed. Watch your mouth, he warned. Adrian stood, fists clenched. No, he said. You watch yours. Celine rose too, calm and lethal. We're leaving, she said. Father's jaw tightened, then eased into a measured calm. You can't leave, he said. This house is your protection. Celine's smile was thin. It's your prison, she corrected. Mother stood last. She looked at Father with grief so deep it looked like exhaustion. Victor, she said softly, I loved you once. I thought your ambition was a storm I could measure. I was wrong. Father's expression tightened. Mira, he said, voice low. Don't. Mother's eyes glistened. I'm done, she whispered. We left that night not as a dramatic escape with suitcases and shouting, but as a quiet exodus. Celine arranged apartments for us in the city. Mother moved her research team to a university lab. Adrian scheduled a meeting with his biological parents. Arya enrolled in a program that would certify her as a lab technician, refusing to accept Father's money. I transferred to a different campus, where my surname would be less of a shadow. In our new apartment, the four of us sat on the floor around cheap takeout boxes. The silence felt strange without the mansion's hum. Arya looked at the cracked tile and laughed softly. This is small, she said. Celine smiled. Small is honest, she replied. Adrian stared at his noodles, then looked up. I'm going to meet them, he said. Mother's eyes filled, and she nodded. I'll go with you if you want, she offered. Adrian shook his head slowly. I need to do it alone, he said, but I want you to know, I'm not leaving you. I'm just expanding my truth. Mother's lips trembled. That's fair, she whispered. I looked at my siblings, one born of stolen science, one born of polished ambition, one born of a hidden embryo, and realized something. Family was no longer a surname or a portrait wall. It was a set of choices we kept making, even when it hurt. Celine raised her soda can. To choice, she said. Arya raised hers too. To theft being exposed, she added. Adrian lifted his can, voice quiet. To being alive, he said. Mother's hand shook as she lifted hers. To repairing what we can, she whispered. I lifted my can last. To belonging without permission, I said. We clinked cheap aluminum, and the sound was small, but it felt like a beginning. 2 months later, the hearings began. Dr. Rowan Pierce testified, trying to trade information for leniency. Mother's evidence cut through his excuses like a blade. Celine's contacts ensured the story stayed public. Arya spoke once, on record, her voice steady, her words simple. Adrian met his biological parents and returned with eyes raw but alive. He brought a photo of them standing beside a fishing boat, smiling awkwardly, as if they were afraid to claim him. Father tried to retaliate. He froze accounts. He leaked rumors about Mother's research. He offered Celine a settlement. He offered Arya a scholarship. He sent me messages that read like threats wrapped in affection. I deleted them all. On the day the court ordered Oxbow's vault seized, we stood outside the building together, watching authorities wheel out steel tanks under camera flashes. The city wind was cold. The news reporters spoke about a historic breach of bioethics. People in the crowd cried, shouted, laughed bitterly. Families held hands too tightly. Arya watched the tanks and whispered, "That's where my beginning slept." Mother's eyes filled. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Arya looked at Mother and, after a long pause, said, "I don't forgive you yet." Mother nodded, tears slipping. "That's fair," she murmured. Celine squeezed Arya's shoulder gently, an uncharacteristically tender gesture. Adrian stood close, hands in his pockets. "We'll keep showing up," he said softly. I looked at the building, at the vault being dismantled, and felt the strange relief of seeing a monster reduced to hardware. It didn't restore lost years. It didn't erase hunger, but it proved that silence could be broken, even by people who had been trained to smile. As we walked away, Arya glanced at me. "You really did 3 DNA tests?" she asked suddenly. I laughed despite myself. "Yes," I admitted, embarrassed. "I was terrified one would lie." Arya snorted. "That's ridiculous," she said. "It is," I agreed, "but it's also me." Arya's expression softened. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" I asked. "For not acting like you deserve the truth more than I do," she said. I swallowed, then steadied my breath. "We all deserve it," I replied. Arya nodded once. "Then let's keep taking it," she said. We walked into the city, 4 people with different beginnings, linked by a scandal that tried to define us, choosing instead to define ourselves. The world did not become kind overnight, but it became less obedient, and that was enough to start rebuilding tomorrow.